My daughter threatened to jump off the balcony unless I divorced her mother. To calm her down, my wife, Laura, suggested we just get a sham divorce for now. I went home to grab some paperwork and saw them at the entrance to our subdivision. Mommy, does this mean Uncle Rick is going to be my new dad? Laura smiled, stroking our daughter's hair. That's right, sweetie. Chloe, you're so smart. We're going to have a new home. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, unable to believe what I was hearing as I stared at my wife and daughter. They were both radiating pure joy. The world went fuzzy, and for a second, I thought I must have misheard. David, what are you doing back? When I snapped out of it, Laura was standing right next to me. She was looking at me with an expression that was part confusion, part guilt. I cleared my throat. I had to come back for a file. Did you just get here? She asked, testing the waters, trying to figure out if I'd overheard them. Yeah, I just walked up. Laura let out a visible sigh of relief, the tension in her brow smoothing out. Mom, let's go home. I have homework, Chloe whined, tugging on her mother's sleeve. Why are you talking to him so much? She shot me a dirty look, then snorted and glared at me again. I didn't understand. How had my daughter become this person? We used to be so close. I'd spoiled her rotten. Chloe, that's your father. You can't speak to him like that, Laura said, her face stern as she disciplined our daughter. But I could tell it was an act, a performance for my benefit. He won't be my dad for much longer, Chloe retorted. I don't want some broke loser for a father. He's about to be a charity case. She put her hands on her hips, her cheeks puffed out. I hate being around poor people. She pointed a finger at me. And remember this, from now on, don't you ever tell anyone you know me. Her words felt like a swarm of insects chewing away at me from the inside. Oh, honey, don't mind her, Laura said, stepping in. You know how kids are. She doesn't mean it. She was pretending to defend me, but I could see the faint smirk playing on her lips. I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles turned white, fighting back a surge of rage. I forced a tight smile. Of course, I'm not going to argue with a child. I looked at Chloe. She's not wrong. I'm about to lose everything. I had been on the verge of telling Laura that my company had caught a lucky break, that things were turning around. But now I changed my mind. I decided to play dumb and find out who this Uncle Rick was, the man my wife was hiding. I walked back to the house with Laura and Chloe. The moment we were inside, Chloe ran to the coffee table and snatched up a document. Here are the divorce papers. Sign them. Now. She really couldn't wait to get a new dad. Laura tugged at my sleeve and leaned in to whisper in my ear. David, Chloe's just going through a rebellious phase. We have to go along with it, or I'm scared she'll do something drastic. I nodded and walked over to my daughter, taking the divorce agreement from her hands. Chloe, do you really want Mommy and me to get a divorce this badly? She nodded frantically, her eyes shining with excitement. Yes. I don't want the kids at school saying my dad is broke. I want a rich dad, like Rick. She stopped short as Laura quickly clamped a hand over her mouth. I pretended not to notice and scanned the agreement. I was shocked. Laura wasn't asking for a thing. No assets, no alimony. All she wanted was sole custody of Chloe. I looked up at her. Laura, you're leaving with nothing? David, your company is about to go bankrupt, she said, her voice dripping with false magnanimity. The last thing I want to do is kick you when you're down. She sounded so noble, but I knew the truth. She was afraid of being saddled with my debt. Besides, with a rich benefactor in the wings, whatever I had was probably pocket change to her now. Just sign it already. Stop wasting time, Chloe demanded, kicking my shin with her small foot. The veins on the back of my hand bulged, but I kept my anger in check. I looked at my wife. She was a stranger to me now. We'd been married for 10 years, and I'd thought we were happy. Chloe was the center of our universe. I adored her, gave her everything she ever asked for. Seeing my wife and daughter at the end of a long day used to melt all my stress away. But a few months ago, things started changing. Laura and Chloe began eating out a lot. They'd come home late. Laura told me she'd enrolled Chloe in an intensive after-school program. I'd said she shouldn't push our daughter too hard, and Laura had flown into a rage, saying our child couldn't fall behind. Sometimes they'd stay at a hotel overnight, claiming the commute was too tiring. Back then, I didn't think anything of it. Now I knew. She was meeting her lover. Laura had played me perfectly, even using our daughter as part of the deception. Now that I was out of money, she was ready to throw me away. And the daughter I had raised for years was nothing but but a backstabbing little brat. Hey, are you going to sign it or not? Chloe kicked my leg again, her eyes wide with indignation. Laura looked on anxiously, terrified I might back out. I took a deep breath and glared down at my daughter. Chloe Carter, whether your mother and I get divorced or not, I will always be your father. Is that how you speak to me? Do you want me to spank you? I rolled up my sleeves, pretending I was about to hit her. Tears instantly welled up in Chloe's eyes. You're not my dad. You're just a monster. If you hit me today, I'll jump off the balcony. If you don't divorce Mom, I'll jump in too. In that moment, I felt like my daughter was a lost cause. She was using every manipulative trick in the book, holding her own life over my head. The love I'd felt for her shattered. Chloe, your father is right. Laura chimed in, playing the peacemaker. Even if we get a divorce, he'll still be your dad. Just then my phone rang. I remembered I had an urgent meeting. The fate of my company depended on it. After hanging up, I grabbed my file and started to leave. But Chloe suddenly threw herself at my legs, wrapping her arms around them. Sign it before you go. You're not leaving until you sign. I looked down at her, my expression cold. Was this really the daughter I had cherished and protected for all these years? David, it'll only take a minute, Laura pleaded, walking over with the papers and a pen. She might actually do something crazy. Chloe immediately scrambled to her feet and ran to the balcony. David Carter, if you don't sign this, I'll jump right now. Everyone will say you drove your own daughter to suicide. Here, speechless. I snatched the agreement from Laura's hand and scrawled my signature across the page. Laura, I said, my voice dripping with ice, you've done a hell of a job raising her. She froze, her face turning crimson as she started to stammer an explanation. But I didn't give her the chance. I shot her a cold smile and walked out the door. The meeting went better than I could have ever hoped. The crisis was averted. When I got home, Laura was out, and Chloe was already asleep. I frowned. Laura must have gone to see her lover. We still had a 1-month waiting period before the divorce was final, and she was already this brazen. I stood by the window, smoking, the exhaustion of the day weighing on me. I scanned the names in my memory, searching for anyone named Rick. Only one came to mind, but it couldn't possibly be him. This lover had to be someone I didn't know. Then, a car pulled up to our building. In the dim light, I could just make out Laura in the passenger seat. The driver must be the man, Rick. My eyes widened as I tried to get a better look, but the distance was too great, and his head was turned. I bolted, sprinting down the stairs at top speed. By the time I reached the curb, breathless, the car was already gone. Laura stood there, biting her lip and blinking at me. David, you're sweating, right? We'd signed the papers, so she was already done calling me honey. Now it was just my name. I got a call from the office. They needed me to come in, but then they called back and said never mind. I made up a lie to cover for my sudden appearance. Laura, where were you? I asked, narrowing my eyes. She instinctively took a step back, swallowing hard. She was nervous, guilty. I was at the hospital with a friend. Her lipstick was smudged at the corners of her mouth. Now I was 100% sure. The man in that car was her lover. David, how's your company doing? She asked, abruptly changing the subject. I let out a heavy sigh and pulled a cigarette from the pack in my pocket. Lighting it, I exhaled a cloud of gray smoke. Not good. Looks like Chloe was right. I'm about to be broke. Might even end up with a mountain of debt. A flicker of a smile touched Laura's lips, and her eyes filled with relief. She was probably thanking her lucky stars she was getting out. Laura, after the divorce is final, are you and Chloe moving out? And when do we get back together? I asked. My brow furrowed as I flicked the ash from my cigarette, my eyes locked on hers. Yes, once it's official, Chloe and I will find a new place, she said, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. And you know how Chloe is right now with her rebellious streak. We'll see what happens. Once she's ready to accept you again, we'll come back, David. I had to hand it to her. Her act was flawless. I gave a bitter laugh. Laura, by the time you come back, we might be living under a bridge. Just then, headlights flashed across my face. The car that had dropped Laura off was back. My heart pounded in my chest. I balled my hands into fists. The coward hiding in the shadows was finally about to show his face. Laura must have heard the engine, because she spun around, her face went pale, and she started waving her hands frantically. The car was still heading toward us. From his angle, The driver probably couldn't see me standing in the shadow of the doorway. Laura, do you know that car? No, of course not. Why would I? Then why are you waving? I'm just hot. Fanning myself. The car suddenly swerved, made a U-turn, and sped away. I darted forward, but all I caught was the rear of the car. I didn't see the driver, but it was enough. I saw the license plate. I didn't know the owner personally, but I knew of him. I couldn't believe it was really him. Laura let out a huge sigh of relief. After all, we weren't officially divorced yet. There was one thing I still didn't get. If she was leaving with nothing, why go through all this trouble to divorce me? She could have just asked. The only things that made sense were that she wanted to guarantee she got custody of Chloe, and that she was protecting her lover's identity. They must have been looking for the wrong address, Laura said casually, then turned and headed upstairs. I stayed outside, finishing my cigarette. Laura's lover was Rick Donovan, my biggest business rival. I took a sharp drag from my cigarette as a thought hit me like a ton of bricks. For the past few months, my company had been losing clients left and right, and every single one of them had been poached by Donovan. Each time, his bid was just a single percentage point higher than mine. Had Laura been leaking my information to him? A cold dread washed over me, and a shiver ran down my spine. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was conspiring with her lover to destroy me. It was something out of a nightmare. As far as I knew, Rick Donovan was a married man with a family. Was the driver really him? Or was it someone else driving his car? The questions swirled in my head. I put out my cigarette and went inside. Laura was coming out of the bathroom after a shower. As she passed, I noticed a fresh, red mark on her collarbone. It looked like she and her lover had just enjoyed themselves. "David, I'm going to sleep in Chloe's room from now on," she announced. Saving herself for her lover, I see. Keeping her distance from me. A cruel smile spread across my face. I took off my jacket and walked toward her, closing the distance between us until I was leaning down, my lips close to her ear. "Laura, we're still married. And this is supposed to be a fake divorce, remember? Maybe we should do what married couples do tonight." She flinched and took a step back, a look of pure disgust on her face. "David, I can't. I'm on my period." I frowned at her. "Isn't that usually at the end of the month? It's only the beginning of the month." She bit her lip, her fingers nervously twisting the fabric of her pajamas. "It's irregular this month. It came early. I am tired, David. I'm going to bed. You should get some rest, too." She couldn't get away from me fast enough, practically running into Chloe's room. I wiped my hand on a tissue, the hand that had briefly touched her waist. I'd only done it to mess with her. My eyes fell on the couch, where her phone lit up with a notification. I picked it up. A text from a contact named Rick D. popped up on the lock screen. "Was it your deadbeat husband just now?" So it was him, Rick Donovan. A moment later, another text appeared. "Honey, I'm taking you to see the condo tomorrow. A gift for you and Chloe." I heard footsteps from Chloe's room and quickly put the phone back down, heading nonchalantly toward the bathroom. Sure enough, Laura rushed out, her eyes darting around the room. She was looking for her phone. She found it on the couch a moment later. After a quick glance at the screen, a wide, blissful smile spread across her face. For a second, I thought maybe she and Rick Donovan were actually in love. He loved her, so he was willing to accept her daughter too. I rubbed my temples as a terrible thought surfaced. What if Chloe wasn't mine? I shook my head, immediately dismissing it. Laura wouldn't have been cheating on me from the very beginning, would she? I felt like I was being attacked on all fronts. My company was a mess, and now I find out my wife is cheating on me and may have been the one to cause my business to fail in the first place. It was too much for one person to handle, but maybe I didn't have to handle it alone. After all, Laura wasn't the only one having an affair. So was Rick Donovan. The next day, I put my company's problems on the back burner. The most pressing issue was to find out everything I could about Rick Donovan's family. I called in every favor I had, leveraging my entire network. It didn't take long to get the details on Donovan, including his wife's personal cell number. Rick Donovan got his start with seed money from his father-in-law. Although he'd built the company into what it was today through his own hard work, he was still seen as living in his father-in-law's shadow. Without that initial investment, he'd be nowhere. His wife was an intensely private person who never appeared in public. They had a 5-year-old son. I didn't have any concrete proof of the affair yet, so convincing his wife would be difficult. But since I had her number, I figured it was worth a shot. I dialed. Mrs. Donovan? Hello, my apologies for the cold call. My name is David Carter. I'd like to meet with you to discuss your husband. The line was silent. Mrs. Donovan? Are you still there? I frowned. Maybe this was a mistake. A total stranger calling with a request like this. Why would she agree? Suddenly, a voice came through the receiver. You said your name is David Carter? Yes, that's right. Is there a problem? Did she know I was her husband's business rival? No problem. Text me the location. I have something to take care of, but I'll head over as soon as I'm done. Great. I'll be waiting for you at the coffee shop, Mrs. Donovan. After hanging up, I quickly texted her the address. I stared at my phone for a long time. I never expected her to agree so easily. It was completely beyond my expectations. I chose a table by the window and ordered a coffee, waiting for Rick Donovan's wife to arrive. I wondered what kind of person she was. About an hour later, an elegant, striking woman walked in. Could that be her? A moment later, she walked directly toward my table without a hint of hesitation. How did she know it was me? I had only given her my name. As I was trying to figure it out, she was already standing in front of me. David Carter. Long time no see. She smiled and extended a hand. I rubbed my eyes and took a closer look. I swallowed hard, my Adam's apple bobbing. It's a small world. Rick Donovan's wife was my old high school classmate, Sophia Hayes. Sophia. It's been a long time, I said, shaking her hand. I never thought we'd meet again like this. Ich glänzte her. She looked like she was still in her 20s, impossibly youthful and far more beautiful than my wife. So, David, you wanted to talk to me about Rick? I nodded. Just as I was about to speak, she cut me off. He's cheating, isn't he? My eyes went wide. A woman's intuition is a powerful thing. Yes, but I don't have any concrete proof yet. Sophia frowned. And why are you telling me this? I took a sip of my coffee and looked at her. Because the woman he's cheating with is my wife. Her eyebrows shot up, her mouth falling open slightly. So, you're the guy getting cheated on? She really knew how to twist a knife. You're not wrong, Sophia, I said evenly. But we're in the same boat. You're being cheated on, too? Sophia stared at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. She crossed her arms, lost in thought. David, to be honest, I don't care if he cheats, she said finally. Rick and I have an unspoken agreement. He can have his women, as long as he's discreet. Now it was my turn to be stunned. I rested my chin on my hand and stared at her in disbelief. Sophia, is your marriage just a sham? She gave a weary smile. It never really existed. So how could it be a sham? I felt like she was speaking a foreign language. I only married him out of convenience, she explained. He wanted my family's help. I just needed a husband on paper to get my parents off my back. The more I heard, the more confused I became, but one thing was clear. My plan was a bust. But you have a son, don't you? He's adopted. Rick and we've never been together like that, other than signing the marriage certificate. I have some issues, a phobia about it, she said so calmly, but my jaw nearly hit the floor. I took another gulp of coffee to steady my nerves. I am sorry, Sofa. I didn't mean to pry into your private life. I'll handle my wife's affair on my own. I got a mess at my company I need to get back to. I'll leave you to it. Maybe I can buy you dinner sometime. I stood up to leave, but she gestured for me to sit back down. David, I never said I wouldn't help you, she said, her eyes glinting. Now that you've come to me, I'm not just going to ignore it. These past few years, Rick has gotten arrogant, thinking that just because the company's grown, he doesn't have to respect me anymore. It's time someone put him back in his place. She gazed out the window, her expression hardening. I told her about the condo Rick was getting for Laura. She nodded, saying she would handle it. As I was leaving, she called out to me. David, graduation day. I asked you to meet me by the old oak tree behind the gym. Why didn't you show up? It was so long ago, I couldn't remember. Besides, I never got any message like that. Forget it, she said, shaking her head. It's in the past. I'll take care of this. You go handle your company. I nodded and watched her until she disappeared from view. Back then, nobody knew about her family. I never would have guessed she came from one of the most powerful families in the city. After leaving the coffee shop, I went straight to the office. There was a mountain of work waiting for me. By the time I finished, it was late at night. When I got home, the living room light was still on. Laura was sitting on the couch, on the phone, a girlish blush on her face. The moment she saw me, she jumped, her face pale with fright, as if I were some kind of monster. I didn't need to guess. She was talking to Rick. She hung up immediately, looking at me with awkward guilt. David, I didn't think you were coming home tonight. Before I could reply, Chloe ran out of her bedroom. Mommy, can I skip school tomorrow? I want to go with you and Uncle Rick to see the new house. Laura stomped her foot and shot Chloe a stern look. Chloe, what are you doing up so late? Get back to bed. You have school tomorrow. She practically shoved Chloe back into the bedroom. As the door closed, Chloe looked back and glared at me. A pit formed in my stomach. Maybe I really should get a paternity test. But even if she was my biological daughter, what difference would it make? A traitor is a traitor, even if they're your own flesh and blood. Laura came back out of the bedroom. The Uncle Rick Chloe was talking about is a real estate agent, she lied smoothly. I want to find a place quickly so we can move out and Chloe can start adjusting. More like she wanted to move in with her lover as soon as possible. I just nodded and walked toward the bathroom. I'm going to take a shower. You should get some sleep. David, she called out, if I like the place tomorrow, Chloe and I will be moving out. I turned to look at her. She was glowing, practically radiating the thrill of a new romance. Okay, good. In that case, I guess I'll see you on the day we finalize the divorce, she said. Chloe's hostility toward you is getting worse. It's probably best if we don't see each other for a while. She wasn't even pretending anymore. Laura, I asked, my voice flat, are you really going to remarry me? She forced a brittle smile. Of course, David. It's just a fake divorce, remember? She was still trying to fool me. I didn't say another word. I just turned and went into the bathroom. I had no attachment left for either of them. The next morning, Laura, dressed to kill, left with Chloe. To my daughter and me, we were already strangers. As I reached the end of my driveway, a luxury sedan pulled up in front of me. Sophia leaned out from the driver's side. Get in, David. She took me to an upscale condo building downtown. You found it here. Is this the place Rick found for my wife? Are you taking me to catch them in the act? Sophia pulled out an iPad and handed it to me. I already had cameras installed inside. Whether you want to go in there and bust them is up to you. I glanced out the window and saw Laura getting out of the car. Rick Donovan had his arm around her waist, and they were staring at each other like lovesick teenagers. Laura stood on her toes and kissed him on the cheek. Wow, Sophia drawled, her eyes also fixed on the scene outside. They look more like a married couple than we do. A scornful smile played on her lips. A moment later, they disappeared inside. Sophia and I exchanged a look, then both turned our attention to the iPad. Soon, Laura and Rick appeared on the screen. The cameras Sophia had installed were high definition, covering every angle. Rick, in a couple of days, the divorce will be final, Laura cooed. When are you going to divorce that washed-up wife of yours? Sophia shot me an annoyed look. David, is your wife blind? Who's the washed-up one here? I managed a weak smile. Her, apparently. I turned my focus back to the screen. Rick, do you think you would have been this successful if I hadn't been stealing files from my idiot husband's office for you? So it was true. She had betrayed me. Rick pulled her into his arms. Laura, of course I know that. You deserve all the credit. But you know my wife. She's not someone you can just push around. Besides, does a piece of paper really matter that much? Before Laura could answer, Rick swept her up and carried her into the bedroom. A few moments later, the sound of heavy breathing filled the audio feed. Sophia and I looked up at the same time. Want to go in? She asked, a mischievous glint in her eyes. I pursed my lips. No. Getting cold feet. I shook my head. I want the divorce to be final first. Some things are worth waiting for. Just make sure you send me a copy of this video. I have to get back to the office, I said. Things to do. Sophia's lips curled into a smile. You're an interesting man, David Carter. Your wife is cheating on you right under your nose, and all you can think about is work. I shrugged and spread my hands. She's about to be my ex-wife. Compared to her, my company is a lot more important. #, 11 Laura and Chloe moved out that night. The next time I saw them was at the courthouse on the day our divorce was finalized. I'm so glad I never have to see that broke loser again, my 8-year-old daughter said, her voice dripping with a venom that was terrifying in a child. Laura put on a show of being stern. Chloe, if you say one more thing like that, you're going to be in big trouble. David, let's just go get this over with. She was practically vibrating with eagerness, terrified I'd change my mind. I felt the same way. I nodded. The moment the papers were signed and stamped, Laura's face broke into a triumphant, unrestrained smile. Chloe tugged on her sleeve. Mommy, is Uncle Rick my new daddy now? Laura stroked her hair. You're so smart, Chloe. Chloe put her hands on her hips and shot me a smug look. I never have to see you again, you charity case. And just so, I was faking it when I said I was going to jump. It was all Mommy's idea. She looked so proud of herself, her eyes filled with a cunning that didn't belong on a child's face. Chloe. She cut me off. My name's not Chloe Carter anymore. It's Chloe Donovan. You're not my dad. My dad's name is Rick Donovan. I frowned and turned to my now ex-wife. Laura, if you wanted a divorce, all you had to do was ask. Did you really have to help your lover try to bankrupt me too? I gave her a slow, deliberate thumbs up. Her face flushed with anger, but she quickly composed herself, her expression turning defiant. Well, since you know everything, I guess there's no point in hiding it, she sneered. I was trying to be decent about it. You fed and clothed me and Chloe for years. I want to let you keep a little dignity. No need for us to be enemies. I shook my head slowly. You were scared I'd fight for custody, and you were scared I'd come after you, weren't you? Her expression told me I was right. #####12. I'm not fighting you for Chloe, I said. But you were right about one thing. I'm going to get my revenge. And not just on you. On your lover, too. Laura snorted. In your dreams, David. You're bankrupt. What are you going to do? And do you have any idea who's behind Rick? Suddenly, a sharp, clear voice cut through the air. Are you referring to me? Sophia Hayes appeared, sunglasses perched on her nose. Trailing behind her, looking miserable, was Rick Donovan. Mommy, why is Uncle Rick with another woman? Chloe asked. Sophia clicked her tongue and, without a word, slapped Rick hard across the face. Rick, oh Rick, you're really something special. You know that? You love picking up other men's sloppy seconds. And it even comes with a bratty kid. A vein throbbed in Rick's forehead. He clenched his fists, struggling to control his temper. Sophia, don't do this here. Let's talk about this at home. Oh, you want to protect your image now, she mocked. Sophia, don't push me, he growled. Don't force me to tell everyone your little secret. We can both walk away from this in flames. I winced. He was talking about her intimacy issues. I clapped my hands together slowly and looked at Rick. Mr. Donovan, I thought you were some kind of business genius. Turns out you're just a guy who leeches off women. Your startup money, your business deals. It's all from them. If there were an award for the world's biggest freeloader, you'd win first place. You're asking for it, Carter, he snarled, swinging a fist at me. I caught his wrist easily. First you steal my wife. Now you want to assault me? I'd be more worried about saving your company if I were you. Right on cue, his phone rang. He answered it, and the color drained from his face. Carter, what did you do to my company? He roared. I smiled. Nothing. Just returning the favor. An eye for an eye. Sophia, did you help him? Rick spun around, pointing a finger at his wife. She shrugged, a defiant look on her face. If I had helped him, you'd be in a much worse position than you are now. Laura suddenly rushed to Rick's side, grabbing his arm as if to claim him. Rick, honey, what's wrong? Sophia let out a cold laugh. Rick, I'm giving you one last chance. Do something to make me happy right now, and I might forget this ever happened. I might even save your company. The message was crystal clear. Rick immediately shoved Laura away from him and slapped her twice hard. Laura, don't you ever come near me again, he spat. If I see you again, I'll beat you every time. My ex-wife stared at him, her face a mask of disbelief. Rick, what are you talking about? After everything I did for you, you're treating me like this? He responded by kicking her hard in the stomach. Laura, did you really think I was in love with you? He sneered, then burst out laughing. Have you looked in a mirror? How could you ever compare my wife? You're a monster. You hurt my mommy. Chloe screamed, running forward and kicking at Rick's legs. He swatted her away with his foot, sending her tumbling to the ground, where she burst into tears. You son of a bitch, you hit my daughter. Laura screamed, launching herself at Rick like a wild animal. They started fighting, a messy, desperate brawl. Sophia and I stood to the side, watching calmly. The fight was short-lived. He was much stronger. Laura, don't make me get serious, Rick warned, his eyes bloodshot with rage. Laura, crying, crawled over to protect Chloe. Honey, are you satisfied with that? Rick asked, turning to Sophia with a pathetic, pleading look. I swear I'll never see her again. I was just using her. I never knew she'd actually fall for me. He even sounded proud of it. Sophia gave me a long, meaningful look, then turned and walked away. Rick scrambled to follow her. Just as I was about to leave, Laura and Chloe grabbed my legs, one on each side. David, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Laura sobbed. Please forgive me, please. Daddy, Mommy and I will come home with you, Chloe cried. I'll never call you a loser again. I coldly pried their hands off me and dusted off my pants. It's too late. We're divorced. I'll send the child support checks on time. As I walked away, I heard Laura scream behind me. David Carter, give me my money. You owe me half of everything. I turned back to look at her. Too late. You're the one who didn't want it. If you won't give it to me, you have to give it to Chloe. A bitter smile touched my lips. Are you sure Chloe is even my daughter? My ex-wife's eyes widened, her mouth hanging open as she stared at me in shock. I didn't wait for an answer. I just walked away. Hashtag 14 to avoid any more drama with my ex-wife. I moved to a new apartment. My company had grown so much we moved into a new office tower as well. Sophia asked me to meet her for coffee. You're ruthless, she said, sipping her latte. You didn't just bankrupt Rick Donovan. You left him drowning in debt. I took a sip of my own coffee. He got what he deserved. So, you and Rick are divorced now? I asked. Duh. You think I'd stick around after all that? She said. By the way, that day at the courthouse, your ex-wife was pregnant. Rick was the one who killed his own child with that kick. I choked on my coffee. He went back to her after that, she added. I put my cup down, frowning slightly. So, I guess they really are in love. Sophia burst out laughing. Love? Are you kidding me? Rick was planning to traffic your ex-wife and daughter overseas to pay off his debts. If you go to the airport right now, you might be able to save your daughter. I picked up my coffee cup and took another slow sip. The dark roast was rich and smooth. That was their choice. I respect their fate. Was the girl even yours? She asked. Does it matter? Sophia nodded, seeming to agree. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks. David, that day I asked you to meet me after graduation. I was going to tell you I had a crush on you. Since fate brought us back together, maybe we could pick up where we left off. My issues, they're all better now. My heart skipped a beat. Her sudden confession left me at a loss for words. Sophia, we both just got out of marriages. I started. Isn't it a little too soon to jump into something new? She shook her head. It's because we both went through failed marriages that I think we'd appreciate a real one even more. A year later, Sophia and I got married. Not long after, we had a child of our own. Our careers flourished, and our lives grew better every day. As for Laura and Chloe, after they were trafficked overseas by Rick, we never heard from them again. Rick got caught up in his own scheme and disappeared along with them. In the end, everyone pays a price for the choices they make.